much, Kavan, for giving us the time and opportunity with you today. And with that, I just want to go real quickly into here. Who is Kavan? Tell us a little bit about yourself. And I got a ton of questions.
Sure. I mean, I guess it depends how far you want to go in the background. I am primarily a tattoo artist, but I've always done design on the side, and it's cool. It's like flex the back and forth because they're so related. And then over the pandemic, I started getting into Blender and started doing more like AR filters, and everything just started kind of merging and, merging further over time. It was great. So I'm trying to bring more of each side into the other.
You're based currently in New York City, but you're not from New York originally, correct?
No, whenever people ask where I'm from, I am always kind of inclined to say Orlando, even though I was raised in Maryland. Like, I don't think anybody should say that they're from the place where they were when they were like 3 if they didn't stay there for a while. I have a friend who's got like a tattoo of California because he was there when he was like 1, but he left when he was like 2. I'm like, I don't know if that counts, bro. You should probably, like, I don't know. It doesn't feel like it would affect you much. You didn't even leave the house much then.
Wait, I thought you were from Tennessee. You're telling me you're from Maryland too?
Yeah, I'm from lots of places. I was born in Maryland. I stayed there till I was like middle school, and then Orlando through my 20s, and then I spent like 8 years in Tennessee. I'm old. I've been many places.
Tell us a little bit about Tennessee real quick, because the only thing I remember is going to this hotel, and there's like a moat, and then there's like a zoo, and there's the Grand Ole Opry, and that's pretty much it I remember about Tennessee.
I mean, I think it goes further than that. I would say like Tennessee's got some fun spots for sure, but if I were to summarize it, I would say Tennessee is really cool if you love doing Tennessee shit. Like if you want to ride ATVs and go shooting, and you enjoy having a weird redneck friend who brings you moonshine that his grandpa made in the forest, like there's tons of that there. And I mean, Nashville's dope, if you like cities. But when I moved to New York, I was like, ooh, I like public transportation and museums more than jumping into a river. So that's where it's at for me.
And what really got you to move to New York? What was the reason for you coming up here?
I mean, everyone wants to go to New York at some point in time. I think it's just like a general curiosity. I like urban environments. I like noisiness. I don't have what's that thing where like people freak out if people are in their bubble? Like, I don't care. So I'm down with like high density environments. I've always lived in houses with too many roommates, probably up until now where I live with one guy, but I've lived with like 5 people and whoever they're dating. So you always have like 15 people in the house. So I don't mind the bustle. So I don't know. I'm drawn to it.
Is it claustrophobia? Is that the word you were looking for?
I mean, I wouldn't consider claustrophobia, but I guess some people would.
How many roommates do you currently have?
Are we including the dog?
Oh, the dog is the newest roommate, correct?
Dog's the newest, but it's just like me and my friend Aaron and then the dog. But my roommate and I, like, we knew each other back in Florida. Like, we went to high school together back when we were like 14. So I've known him forever.
And when did you start getting into tattooing? Was it back in Maryland or Florida?
Well, I left Maryland when I was 8. So I waited till I was like 20s, basically, in Orlando. And I was going to school to do graphic design. And I was just like really not enjoying. Well, I like the principles of design. I like the process of design. But the clients I was dealing with at the time, I was just getting, you know what it was? When I was 16 years old, I was so hungry to do design because I loved the process that I was doing tons of shit like for free. I was just doing it because I enjoyed doing it. And then by the time I was like 19 and 20, I was in college trying to do it for money. And I kept getting undercut by thirsty 16-year-olds who just wanted to do it because they liked it. And I'm like, I can't make a living like this. I'm getting undone by the exact kind of person I was, So tattooing had a little bit more of a moat. Like, it's harder to get into. So, you have that there. And also, like, I've spent the bulk of my adult life waking up at like 1 p.m., which I got to say, it's pretty cool. So that's handy.
By the way, I just tweeted out a screenshot of what we're seeing up here. I did not write this show up at all because Kavan is a fireball, y'all. You can't keep him on the subject to save your life. So we're just chilling here. Check out the stream. It's insane, by the way. I got my clone filter on. I'm wearing Clone X gear. He's got his custom clone with his cool glasses on. And like, so what got you into the Clone X community and that project? Was it the aspect that you could create with it?
Honestly, I was seeing a lot of ads for the time. Like their marketing push when that started was super hard, and it was like the worst FOMO I'd ever experienced. And I'm like, this is fucking infuriating. Like I want this so bad. And then I went to the website where, you know, people were minting and stuff, and the web design was just like this really cool, like scrolling parallax thing with this 3D object. And I'm like, they're messing with like the 3D implementation in the web, all this stuff. Because here's the thing. I don't really give a shit about anime. Like I'm still trying, right? Like I just wasn't raised with it. So that's kind of like a late in life addition. So like the aesthetic is cool, but it wasn't coming from that. And I've always like appreciated like footwear and fashion as a whole, but I wasn't a sneakerhead. So like my interest was sort of tangential, but like the web design was sick. And I said, I need to spend too much money on this right now.
That is great leadway or segue into what we want to talk about and what you talk about and share on your Instagram all the time. You just love like 3D design and like computer design. What's this graphics element thing about for Procreate?
Oh, that was my first Procreate brush pack. I've got some more stuff that I'm working on, but you know, Procreate's shape creation is fairly limited, and I would say even hanging around clones and artifact and all that stuff, there's a lot of that sort of there's a genre of graphic design that I really appreciate, but it's not easy to do on Procreate, which is really more of drawing and painting software. So I you know, spent like a month and a half in Illustrator just like coming out with a lot of useful shape templates and like decals and stuff that I would like to use when I do that kind of work. And just having it accessible on mobile makes my life easier when I want to whip up something that's in that zone.
I see that this Twitter account was created in 2009. You also, going back to the Procreate thing, it says Y2K raves, which I know some people who got jobs because of Y2K, which was a joke. Like, why is your eye always going there? Like, by the way, everybody, you got to follow Kavan's Instagram. I love your Instagram, dude. Everything you post is incredible. I find myself sending it to JPEG-J like every day now.
Oh, what, the stuff I put up in my stories?
Yeah, like the guy the other day coming to save the family with all the tech, and he's got the he's got the rollerblade computer and the keyboard. That shit is hilarious.
You know, I think it's one of those things where there is a sort of hole in my life from how I used to maybe use Tumblr, you know, 10 years ago, where I'm like, I just want to find everything cool on the internet, and I can't appreciate it by myself. I need to shove it in your face too. And it's from a lot of different genres, right? So the stuff I like creating and the stuff that I like consuming have sort of similar problems where like I cannot stay in one topic range at all. I'm like, we're going to do 2 photo posts, then some weird niche deep fried meme that's like 8 years old and has been downloaded and re-uploaded until it looks like trash. And then like a cool video edit, some 3D stuff, vintage graphic design from the 1960s. There's just like, the internet will consume you because there is enough cool stuff for you to look at until you are 130 years old, like every single day being uploaded. And I think that a thing that I'm trying to maybe regulate is the ability for me to just go, that's enough internet, and like close out for the day. Cause I'll just keep clicking stuff on Pinterest until like my eyes want to fall out of my head.
So what are you doing right now? What are you clicking on right now as you're talking to us?
I'm trying to not do that because then I won't be paying attention to this conversation. So I'm holding my phone with both hands, just attempting to stay in it.
I really appreciate that. And by the way, everybody, Kavan thought this was at 6:30. So there's no coincidences in Web3. This all worked out for a reason. Seriously, check out the stream that we're doing right now. I got to give my co-host some flowers right now. She did all of this using an old Android phone I have. Her Mac book and like I think another phone, and we're doing this without having to pay that $500 Rotocaster. So that's what we're doing. We're looking out here. If anybody else needs those tips, we got you, baby. We're gonna keep building. I'm glad Kavan's joining us with that. Kavan, keep switching up your backgrounds if you want. Change it up.
Okay, listen.
Show us what you've been creating. And by the way, let me give Kavan some more flowers. He was I would say the graphic the art director behind the entire CloneX NYC event that we did. And he did not stop. He literally brought his laptop to the event, put it on the bar, and worked throughout the event. And he was like a pig in shit.
That's how I love to be described. It's perfect. So yeah, that thing was so funny too, because I brought such a sort of like beater laptop and everyone was like, you're just going to leave that on the bar unattended? I'm like, nobody wants that Chromebook. That thing was $100 brand new. Nobody's going to steal that thing.
I love that. Yeah, so as he's clicking away over there, Kavan, yeah, this space is titled Tattoos, right? And when
Right.
you first jumped up in the CloneX community, you were showing everybody that you like have like like AR filtered tattoo guns. Also, like you do something when people get tattoos from you and IRL, they can get like an AR filter of their tattoo, correct?
So yes and no. A lot of that stuff's really experimental. Like I want to do more of that stuff, but the thing about tattooing is that it's always collaborative. I need people who are down for the experimental stuff because I think that there is a sort of knee-jerk tendency to play it safe because of the permanence. And I think the more people are willing to sort of just be flexible and roll with it, you end up getting really cool stuff when you allow artists to just have fun and try new things. Because artists need that in order to expand and evolve their skill sets. I've been messing with stuff like creating 3D versions of a tattoo, then tying it to the 2D image of the tattoo and then having like an AR representation that can pop up. Because like tattoos are cool, but they're extremely limited, right? Like here's the thing, skin is a dog shit medium. It's terrible. If everyone could replace their skin with like anything else, like an LCD screen, that would be sick. But we're stuck with this organic trash on our bones for now. So like deal, right? It doesn't sustain high density details well over time. Like there's a lot of issues. So I think that my background in graphic design has actually really helped because a lot of stuff in graphic design. So let's say you're trying to design a flyer or a poster that has to be outside. It has to compete with noise. It has to compete with degradation. So you need to have like visibility at distance, clarity of information, that kind of stuff. So I love porting that over to tattooing, and until we can sort of get screens implanted in our skin so I can start actually uploading GIFs to people's arms, like we're just kind of dealing with it. But it's cool. It's like the probably oldest art medium that isn't cave painting.
I love that because like, we're robot clones and I would love to be titanium and have like titanium gut to be anything I could.
Yeah. I have some friends who just had some like cosmetic surgery and I'm like, I'm down for people who try to do like minor swaps, but I'm like, I want the big swaps, like pop out my eyeballs and give me some like thermal vision, pull out my bones and give me like carbon fiber. I don't know.
It's painful though. If you had to see what, Master Chief went through in Halo, it's tough. It hurts. And speaking of pain and toughness, the tattoo scene is tough. Is that what drew you into the Web3 space? Because it's just as tough?
I don't think I got into it because it's tough. I think it was because it was an enabler for my particular bullshit in life. It was a lot of like getting to hang out with your friends and draw all day, that kind of stuff. Like, I also think that the era of tattooing being tough is like kind of coasting on how tough it used to be. And I'm not bagging on it. I am down for more, what's the word? I'm really trying to fight the urge to say artsy because that is just such a cop-out word. But, in general, I'm really over the tough shit because like, there are a lot of people whose whole identity is like, ooh, tattoo is tough. And I'm like, you're the biggest baby if you don't have the color bottle you want, where you're like, where's my chartreuse? And I'm like, this is not tough. Who cares?
Can you elaborate a little more on that chartreuse and not having the correct color?
Okay, listen, chartreuse is just like my go-to funny color word, maybe mauve. Um, but I think tattooers always want to look super tough and whatever. And I'm like, we literally spend all day being pedantic about colors and layouts and stuff. Like, why are we sort of acting like we're lumberjacks? This is not true.
I have 0 tattoos, but if I were going to go get a tattoo, what are like the top 3 things that I should know?
Um, well, I try to think of it in a top 3 sense, right? You could view this from a practical standpoint and say, is this about longevity? Do you want to design for longevity? Is this a thing where, and longevity could be 2 things too. It could be technical, like not getting thin lines too close to one another that could blur over time, or it could be conceptual, like don't get the name tattooed on you of someone you've been dating for 3 weeks, like those kind of things. Um, but it goes a lot of different ways. I would want to sit somebody down and say, what do you want out of tattoos? Because a thing that I've kind of come to the conclusions with is that there are people who don't really care if something is super permanent. Like people who get really fine line gray wash things that like could look really hazy in 5 years, and they don't really care because you can always cover it, laser it out. I think that traditionally people view it as a permanence first medium, but it can be anything, and it's like what I would like people to keep in mind is that when you say the word tattoo, it's like saying paint. It's a medium, not a style. So it could be anything. It's like, what does a painting look like? It can look like whatever you want. And I think that people who try to bottleneck it into an aesthetic maybe do themselves a disservice.
Do you see yourself doing tattoos for the rest of your life?
I would like to not do them full time for the rest of my life. It's actually like a pretty physically demanding art form. That's why like every tattooer has like a spine like a goblin. It's just we're all like hunched over with like carpal tunnel in our hands. So I would like to be tattooing on and off for the rest of my life, but I don't want to be trying to do it every day, all day, because especially all the people I know who've been tattooing 20 years, like they need surgery for their arms because they've like put pressure on these muscles while doing fine motor controls and it's like jacked up their pinkies and stuff like that. I don't want to deal with that. So I'm just trying to sit in my comfy gaming chair and do stuff on Blender.
Hell yeah. And that's why y'all should hit up Kavan and hire him to work with him, because I've worked with him and I want to say firsthand, incredible working with you, Kavan. You really put I think you put everybody's vision and their ideas down on the board. We really hit that bear market vibe really good with that punk aesthetic, I think it sits in time. So, yeah, I mean, where do you think, I always ask all my guests this, how about I'll do this early on. What do you think that we can do or what can be improved to help the UI in this space overall as a whole?
So I'll tell you something that I am kind of hung up on right now, right? Because I think I'm reasonably technical. I can get through some like challenging stuff on Blender, but what's cool about, let's say, learning something like Blender or learning Procreate or Photoshop is that there's a massive knowledge base available freely on YouTube, tutorial wise to learn any possible skill. And in the Web3 space and stuff, I think I would like more intro to minting stuff, intro to contracts, all of the oh my God, my brain is falling out of my head. Was it Manifold? All that stuff. I'm like really interested in that. And I want to mint more stuff. But I just know less about that stuff. So I just kind of end up going back to creating what I do know, so, or maybe even like get our heads together more of like plugging more artists into more technical people and vice versa. Cause it's like, we all need each other.
I absolutely love that. That is, man, you answered that incredibly well. Jay, do you have your hand up or are you just raising it up in the VRM?
I'm raising it in support of what Kavan just said.
I love it. Thank you, JPEG Jay. She's doing a million things behind the back end. I just want to remind everybody, I got 6 more minutes with Kavan, and then I'll throw the mic down to whoever wants to come up and start throwing flowers or asking questions. With that, damn, like I said, Kavan, I didn't have anything written out. And like you came so prepared. You said you don't have any extra screens up. You're being so excellent with it. Thank you so much. what is a normal life, day in a life of Kavan look like? Do you wake up? Do you hit the train? Do you hit an Uber? Do you hit a bike? What's it like walking around New York City, getting you to the tattoo shop?
Especially with it being super nice outside, I just want to go into the city and do nothing all day. It's like kind of my favorite. I made the transition into getting one of those little itty bitty baby iPads, and I am a massive fan because, I had the 13-inch iPad Pro, but the mini is like kind of all I need these days. So I just throw it in my like small bag and then find some coffee shop to hang out at. I go to the shop when I have to do tattoos and stuff. But if I don't have anybody there, I can go use it as like a spot to draw, but it's also right next to Washington Square Park. And these days I'm like, why would I be inside when I can be outside? You know what I mean? So get up, hit the train. I'm down by Prospect Park. So I, get to Manhattan when I can, go get cheap food in Chinatown.
People are outside right now because the weather is so fucking nice. I feel that. I don't want to work at all right now. Oh my gosh, I hope the boss isn't listening because the weather is so nice. What's the craziest thing you've seen so far as the weather's getting nice in the city?
Crazy people yelling and throwing things, but that's pretty typical.
That is pretty typical, without a doubt. This summer, I'm putting it out here. I've been talking to the CloneX NYC community. I want to do Coney Island, baby. I want to talk about the Coney Island.
I already have like graphics in mind for it.
I fucking love it. Coney Island is a trip. Warriors come out to play.
Okay, so you know what? I want to step back for a second. You were asking about what drew me to New York, and then also what my day kind of looks like. And these are all sort of connected things for me. I made a comparison a while back, and I keep thinking about it, where I'm like, watching movies, if you don't know anything about movies, is just like, okay, well, here's this story with these characters. But the more skills you have, the more levels on which you can appreciate watching a movie. Where if you're a photographer, maybe you can appreciate the angles, and then you start to learn movement, and you start appreciating it on like the cinematography. Maybe you appreciate wardrobe, and like the more angles by which you can appreciate something, you can watch it over and over again and be like, this movie sucks, but damn, did they kill it on the wardrobe? There's a lot of those moments. And I feel very much the same way about New York, where, you pop into Manhattan, and if you just like architecture, that's great. You already have a ton to look at. And then if you also have an appreciation for graffiti, you have that sort of secondary layer on top of your appreciation for architecture. And if you like fashion, you can creep on everybody in front. Oh man, I don't have it on my computer. I took a creep shot of this girl's heels in Washington Square Park because they were like walking on eggshells. It was like a cracked, smushed sculpture of like an eggshell at the bottom of the heel. It was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. But she was like taking photos with people. I'm like, I'm not gonna bother her. But like people be wearing crazy shoes. I saw some, hey, I walked by Eric Andre today. So that was cool. And the more levels to which you can appreciate things, it just gets better and better. I think that New York would not be fun if you didn't have an appreciation for stuff. And I feel like that's a weird way to say that, but you know what I mean? Like there's so many angles to which you can appreciate this city.
I love that. And I love that Eric Andre clip when he's on the subway train and he's pouring the fucking milk in the cereal and he's like, yes. Eat me. God, that's such a good clip.
You know what? Hey,
what? Hold on.
Getting into OnCyber and Hyperfy and all this stuff is sort of revitalizing my interest in things like architecture, but like specifically, what do I like about this architecture, and when does this architecture feel like the architecture I see on the internet? Like, what makes metaverse architecture look like itself, right? When it's nice outside, you're like, why does any building have a roof? They should all just be convertibles because it's nice outside. And that's how it is on like OnCyber, where it's like there's no weather, so you don't need to have everything can be open. Or like really looking at graffiti and stuff. I think working on the NFT NYC stuff with you guys has kind of made me sort of look at a lot of like textures and graffiti a lot more than I was maybe 6 months ago. And there's just so much of it. My camera right now is just tons of reference photos.
Before I let Kane go off real quick, let me just share this with y'all. I'm so excited to share this. The first time I was with Kavan IRL, we were in a car. I was driving. He was sitting passenger side. We were just talking to each other, talking about New York stuff. Lo and behold, we shared that we had a common friend that passed away, got hit by a car while he was on his bike. And it's crazy because I know Kavan would have been one of those 20 roommates that I would have had. But then later on, we showed up in each other's life. Shout out to Ferosh for that, because Kavan did that artwork.
Yo, for sure.
That was incredible that the universe brought us right back together like that.
Well, that was funny because I was in the car with you, and Hodel was riding past us on his little unicycle jam, and you and I had the same conversation, which is that looks really fun, but I would be concerned about getting run over. And then I'm like, oh yeah, my friend Zach got run over, and you go Ferosh, and then we go, wait, what? And I didn't know that you knew him because like I used to like tattoo him in my friend's kitchen like 13 years ago.
Rest in peace to the legend, Joe. He shed out for Skrillex the day before he passed. And that's why we're still here. And that's why we got to share these stories. But I'm sharing that in the good way, yo. It's like we're sharing that to keep the energy going on. Speaking of energy, speaking of a young up-and-comer in the space, someone who YouTube, I've been loving this person's YouTube. Yo, he's been sharing too much. And then he's like, oh, mom's going to watch this YouTube anyway. Kane, what is good today?
Yo, what's up? I had a question for Kevin. Like, I'm not sure if you've covered it before, but with like people like
what's up
using more VRMs on cyber, like have you played like doing like custom tattoos for clones?
Oh my God, that's like very much where I'm at right now. There's some stuff that I'm playing with currently of I don't know if anybody's been on events on Cyber or Hyperfy where you've seen a super oversized pink hand walking around, but that's one of my VRMs that you might have run into. I've been UV unwrapping it and setting it up to do tattoos. I want to do things like tattoos for clones. That was actually a fun sort of trait that the humans all have that I really want to do a ton of, because a thing that I got more into Blender doing was I had set up a face tattoo filter on Instagram and Snapchat years ago, like 2019 or something like that. And I had a blast doing that. So I want to do more for clones. I just have to have like a giant bucket of ideas that need to be sort of like filtered by priority, because yeah, I would love to do tattoos for VRMs, that stuff. And right before I hopped on, I was actually on Hyperfy looking at the Hyperfy default model and being like, this thing's great. It's like low poly. It's very efficient. I might have to pull that thing into Procreate and set it up. But it's just so it's so sort of seamless now. Like all of this stuff used to be way more difficult. Like if you are in the audience and you have had interest in 3D but haven't jumped into it, just do it. It's way easier than you think it is. And like it only gets hard when you get to a certain level. Like if you can do Photoshop and you have any video editing ability, you'll already understand timelines, keyframes, layers, all that stuff. And like I said, it's all related. So if you're interested in VRMs, then like my sort of interest in low poly retro gaming comes in handy, because it's all about efficiency, keeping your poly counts low, all that stuff. So if you want to do things like tattoos, just, what I've been doing, honestly, I go on Hyperfy or I go on Cyber, and when people show up, I just reload it and rip all their GLB files and VRMs and start reverse engineering them, because I want to see how they were made.
That's how I got all my artifact files.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yo, I told y'all Kane is hot. The fucking phone is ringing. People are calling. They want Kane. And with that, if you're in the audience, you need to jump up right now and throw those flowers or throw those questions at my boy, because we only got him up here for 27 more minutes. I even heard that somebody skipped out on work early to come and tune into this space. I appreciate you and I love you for that. Also, if you're listening back, those NFTs went out from the Stapleverse space. So no one has to go in my DM anymore. No more middlemaning. They're out there. They're in your wallets. We love you. We love you. We love you. Kavan. Oh, we got Cass coming up here. I love that. Cass has been in spaces all day today. Here we go. We are connecting. Hello, Cass.
What up?
Yo, so I think there's two things I gotta say. First, Kavan is like the epitome of just like what I think of like clone creators, the constantly like just curious and doing 1,000 things at the same time. And you're like, just how the fuck do you do all this? And you're still like really good at all of it. And now the second thing, which is probably the more important, you got me curious about AR tattoos, and I'm gonna have to grill you a little bit, because I would be one of those people that would fucking get an AR tattoo 100,000%. Like, but then I started thinking, like, like, what if the ink? I'm allergic to it, yada yada yada. Because I've had enough tattoos at least like have seen like some go wrong type vibe.
Yeah, totally. And this is the other thing too. If you are someone who has maybe gotten a tattoo or two, and they're a little bit bad, and they're not good tattoos, the secret move that everyone should be aware of is you just get more and more bad tattoos until you have a lot, and then they start looking good because there's a lot of them.
I can attest to that. I think so all of my tattoos have been like throughout time, and it's really funny because like one started as like my mom's name in Japanese, and now it's like bled into like this full sleeve of like anime stuff and other things. And yeah, so more tattoos better. You look at every rock star. It's like
I have a sort of like a tangential point that reminds me of where this is years ago. I was in Tennessee, and this girl came in and she was like, "Hey, I want to get this lettering." And I looked at the page she handed me and I said, "I can't read this." And then I go, "Oh, it's not in English. It's fine." And it was Italian. And I'm like, "So what's the deal with this Italian lettering you want to get?" And she goes, "Oh, my grandma just died, so like I want to get this." And I go, "Okay, word. Was she like Italian? What's the correlation?" She goes, "No." I said, "All right, well, was she like, I don't know, did she like pasta? Like where's the thing?" And she goes, "Oh no, I just thought it was like pretty." I said, "I mean, that's cool. I'm not against that, but I'm like, maybe because it's like a memorial, we should, if somebody got a memorial for me and then got something that I didn't have any relation to, I would be like, all the things I liked in life and you picked something that I had, no connection to, weird, So I was trying to pick her brain and I was like, what was your grandma into? Was she into grandma shit? Did she like, baking? And she was like, no, she was actually really funny. And I was like, okay, well, like what? And she goes, yeah, she was, went right before she died. The nurses like went into her room and asked if she was okay. And she said, "Abso-fucking-lutely," and then rolled over and died. And I said, "Your grandma's last words were abso-fucking-lutely?" And she goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Why wouldn't you just get a tattoo that said abso-fucking-lutely? That's a way cooler thing to get. And it's related and it's like honest and about that person." And she went from getting like a really pretty script tattoo that was in Italian to getting abso-fucking-lutely with an explosion behind it in like comic book lettering. And it's such a better tattoo. And I think that like that kind of stuff, we're talking about tattoos, maybe sort of questioning the sub motivations are good too. Cause it's like, listen, there's tons of stuff I like just because I like it, but it's always cool to maybe consider like, what is the purpose of this? And even if the purpose is just because it's rad, that's fair. I love that kind of reasoning, I have spoken publicly against meaningful tattoos a lot of times because I think that people put too much importance on it.
Can I just say that's one of the reasons why I would get a tattoo from you, though, just because I can tell you're the type of person that would at least have the conversation. Because like I've gotten a tattoo from a tattoo artist where the first idea I had, he was like, "Bro, honestly, I'm not going to waste my time. Like anybody could do that here." He's like, "I would do something cooler." And he just talked to me. Like he just genuinely like asked me like what my other interests were, other things I wanted to do. And the idea that I thought I would never get, he ended up doing and he nailed it. So like,
perfect.
You're like, when you were talking about like the artistic process, I was like, yeah, he's just like an actual tattoo artist and understands how to, get shit done by creating a vision with another person.
Well, I think that that's the fun part about tattooing, right? Like, I don't necessarily want somebody to walk in and then I just put it on them and send them out the door like they're ordering a sandwich from me, right? Like, I want them to sit around and like shoot the shit because with any sort of conversation, it just branches and branches and you end up on some weird topic that you didn't think about before. And then you're like, oh, of course, this is perfect. But you got to dig it out of them a little bit. Like, I think that a weird side effect of being a tattooer for so long is that you end up, if you're doing this right at all, I think you become really good at conversation because you're functionally on a blind date with everyone that you're hanging out with. Because like, oh, I got to tattoo somebody? Cool. It's a stranger and I have to be in their personal bubble for the next 5 hours. I got to find something to talk about or this is going to be the worst shit ever. And you find something in common with, tons of people that you normally wouldn't connect to. So it's always fun.
Thank you, Cass. That was incredible. Thank you. Everybody always has something new to add or ask something that I didn't think to ask. If you tuned in earlier, I played a song off of a soundtrack mixtape that actually Memory that just came up here and Kavan put together, doing all the different CloneX DNAs, again, artifact creators here. Memory, what is good, fam? The person who put my Rug Radio hoodie together. Thank you and welcome.
What up?
What up? What up?
How's it going?
Good, man. Good to hear from you again. I want to preface this by saying that I usually do not compliment people very often. Like, if anything, it's just like a judgment of, like, do better. But, like, let me just say, Kavan is, like, one of the coolest people I have ever met in my life. I have never,
Thank you.
Our first interaction was in New York, and he freaking gave us the tour, man. He went above and beyond hospitality information, and he ended up just hanging out with me and my girlfriend like the whole rest of the time up in the New York event. And she was like, we'd come home and she'd be like, I've literally never seen you interact so well with somebody else before. Like, Kavan and I can literally just like ADD topic from everything, like design, teenage engineering, electronics.
Oh my God,
3D.
Teenage engineering. Sorry. Hey, listen, this space is now about teenage engineering. Did you see that new recorder they dropped? That thing is like...
Dude, that thing is sick.
I want to just push those buttons. It's all tactile and...
Did you see the rewind function?
Yeah. Yeah, dude, I think the rewind function. Shut up. Yeah.
Dude, it's hot.
Hold on, can somebody give me the captions for this? Because I don't know what the fuck. what just happened?
Okay. He brought up one of my favorite contemporary design firms. And that's not a design firm, but like functionally they are. It's a company out of Sweden that makes really overly super good looking synthesizers. That's why they got famous, right?
And really
then,
overpriced.
Yeah. And then they were just like, okay, cool, let's start making speakers. Okay, let's start making like desks. They started making computer cases. They started making like flat pack DIY modular synthesizers. Like, they're doing shit that I get so pumped about that, like, it's like Braun in the 60s. It's just like a powerhouse of industrial design. I love their shit.
Yo, it ain't.
I've seen these.
It ain't cheap.
Hmm?
It's sexy, but it ain't cheap. But you know what? I'm not surprised because we're clones and we like expensive shit, don't we?
Yes. Oh my God.
Sexy and expensive is how I would define the average clone holder. So
I think
your significant other Memory told you that you bonded so well with somebody like this, and I'm glad that we're still connected and we're still talking and we're still here today in these spaces. Because Kavan says sometimes spaces get a little too stupid for him. So I'm glad that Kavan is here to drop his intelligence on us today.
You know what it was? Okay, so first of all, I had a great time. I think I walked you around New York until our like feet fell off our ankles. I remember like having to spend a few days afterwards, just like with my feet up on the sofa,
just nursing them. Yes.
But because of these kind of situations, like I don't know, is Maki around? He was in town a little bit later, and I did a kind of similar situation with him. But I'm sort of like trying to like mark everything on my map of like, hey, if we're near here, here's some cool stuff. Because I mean, you know, there's always neat stuff to do here. Wait, shit, I got sidetracked. I started thinking about those stupid wooden escalators in Macy's.
Wait, they have wooden escalators at Macy's?
That was my idea.
Listen,
damn.
Yeah, like, okay, there's a list of stuff that I'm gonna do if I've got, you know, a friend in town or something. And there's like things you would do on purpose, like go to there. And then there's like secondary and tertiary things where you're like, I would never drag somebody out of the way. But if we're on the same block as this weird thing, we might as well make like a quick detour. So like Macy's on 34th is so fucking old that the upper floors still have escalators that are made of wood. So if you've never been, you should stop by there because that's like a funny thing. I don't know. It's like, it's so crazy. It's like seeing a computer made out of stone, you know, like out of the Flintstones.
Yo, I gotta go check that out. Speaking of Flintstones and somebody who was on that story I was talking about on their one wheel, which was crazy, by the way. I felt like we were in Minority Report. We were like the cops, and like Hoddle was on his one wheel going around the car like beep, beep, like stay back from the car. But Hoddle has some of your art on his skin. So I had to request him up here. Welcome, Hoddle CEO.
Hello, hello. How's
What?
it going, everyone?
Are you hiding in the closet at work, or do you leave today?
So I was able to escape from work today. I'm not hiding in the back freight elevator, sitting on a bucket for my boss to catch me. So we're all good. I'm wheelless right now, so I've been pedaling my feet to the ground like Fred Flintstone. But I will be back on the wheel soon. Don't you worry.
Dope.
Hotto was actually part of my original Clone X New York hangout group too.
Oh yeah, I was also nursing my feet. That was, one for the record books indeed. Kavan, can I lock in the first clone tat? I mean, I know I've been itching you for a long time for it, but I know I can see there's some interest up here now. I don't want to lose my slot. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, sure. What do you want? Like we can figure. I got some backlogged ideas to work with already.
Front running them. Yo, so tell us what it was like when he touched your skin and put ink in it. What was the experience like? And by the way, I really want to give you a big shout out, Kavan, for breaking it down to somebody about their tattoo and the meaning of it. I once upon a time almost got a tattoo thinking it was meaning something, thinking it was cool.
Oh.
And then a tattoo artist told me basically I didn't know what the fuck I was thinking about. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna end this one.
There's a thing you got to kind of like, to me personally, right? I think you should thread the needle, because I think that if it's like you want something that you like, I don't want something that I love, and I'm gonna like extrapolate on that for you, right? Where there are people who are so head over heels crazy about the person that they're seeing, for the summer or whatever, or like they just had like some super meaningful experience, whatever, and they have to get a tattoo about it. But then it's like that sort of novelty of it being in its extreme phase wears down. And I'm like, don't get the thing you love. Get some shit that you're going to like. Because like you could be 100 years old and you were like, yeah, cheeseburgers were great. Like you were never in love with them, but they were always like pretty rad. So I think if you go for that, and like there are things that in tattooing that are like cliche, but like still are kind of awesome. Like I'm trying to think, like, are there 1.5 million dagger tattoos? Yeah. Are daggers like still pretty rad? Yeah. Like it's kind of hard to like, I don't know, the thing looked cool. That's a fair point. It doesn't have to be any crazier than that.
Yo, like skulls. Like when in doubt, throw a skull on.
Fuck skulls. Come on, we all have one living inside of our face. Why would you not want a skull? The skull is like one of the most common art tropes through all of art history anywhere on Earth, because like everyone your dead grandma, now a skull. Your favorite author from the 1800s, now a skull. Everyone's a skull, so it's kind of like a why not?
We are all skulls. Could we, Hoddle, he did the blade on you, right? Am I wrong? Am I crazy?
Yes, this is true. I kind of walked into this man's shop and I was like, here's the sandwich I want, slap it on me. And he was like, you know what, that's cool, but let's really see if this is what you want. And we talked about it, we did some color theory, but all in all, like we slapped that thing right on me.
So with your blade, there's actually kind of another sort of principle that I kind of stand by, where some artists sort of have tendencies to maybe overthink something and try to make things, even simple things, complex, just so that they can flex how well they shade or how well they highlight or all these sort of technical things. And like sometimes that doesn't matter, and it's not necessarily what the thing needs. Because sometimes it being simple is the correct response. And like the one I did on you is like fairly small, and it was going in between existing pieces. So like it wasn't going to be some like arm dominating giant design. It just needed to be there and fit the vibe. And I don't know, maybe it's a little bit of like, read the room, dude. Like I know some tattooers who they're like, yeah, they brought me this really streamlined, simple graphic, but like I'm going to make it this super advanced shaded portrait so that I can show how good of an artist I am. And that's all ego, like sometimes it just needs to be a simple graphic, and that's chill. Like it doesn't need the that Baroque treatment.
God, you are so chill, and you have no ego about you, bro, for real. And the fact that you're sitting there telling us that people are out here shading people's tattoos, for ego and a flex, man, there are weird flexes all over the place. That's why I love interviewing people like you.
I just like the idea of being like, yeah, you don't have any ego. I'm like, can we bring up more people to the stage to tell me how much they like me, please?
Yo, save this space and then just play it really fucking loud in the tattoo shop next time you're there. You know what I mean? People will love you for that. But listen, Kavon's petty too, because that fucking story you told us about the frozen pasta that you put in the freezer with your roommate. God, Kavon has stories for days. We'll have him back.
Yeah. Should I talk about the Alfredo?
I mean, you can talk about whatever you want. I mean, we got 10 more minutes, but we can always go a little over. But yeah, you got other roommate stories besides the ones I've already heard?
I mean, it's just one of those things. I think if you're going to be petty, like, go for it. And there's a term for it that I love called malicious compliance, where it's like, oh, you want to do this? Oh, okay, buddy, I'll fucking do it. Don't you worry. It was like I used a half a jar of Alfredo that belonged to my roommate. This would have been like years ago, and he got so unbelievably butthurt about it. Like, it was actually incredible. And it wasn't even like, hey man, don't use my pasta sauce. He, like, how like roommates always have the dry erase board, the community board in the house that they all kind of use. He wrote this fucking crazed madman letter on it, like a terrorist bomber leading a threat. He was on there being like, I shouldn't have to hide my own sauce in my own house. If you didn't buy it, don't eat it. Simple. Just like a deranged man, So I was like, hey, bud, listen, I was going to get you more sauce when I went to the grocery store. He goes, yeah, you better get me sauce. I said, oh, I'll get you sauce. Don't you worry. And then the next day I went to Walmart and I bought all the Alfredo that they had in stock. And then I put it I lined the whole fridge. It looked like a display case at Walmart. It was front to back, side to side fucking Alfredo. You want Alfredo? I'm going to drown you to death in Alfredo. I filled Alfredo everywhere. And then I erased his message and I drew a picture of him crying and I wrote sharing is for communists underneath it. And then I said, I am hilarious and I'm just going to be about this. So then I was waiting for him to see the Alfredo and he ate out that night. He came home and I was like, God damn it. So then the next day I waited and now I'm inconveniencing myself because in order to use the fridge, I got to reach around all the fucking Alfredo I bought to like reach my own food. And so like 2 days goes by. And for a guy so invested in his sauce, he didn't even look in the own fridge for like 3 days. Anyways, I'm like brushing my teeth one day. And I had like basically forgotten about it at this point. And he comes in from like the back door. So the first thing he sees is a dry erase board, realizing I've drawn this embarrassing photo of him. And he's just walks up and he's like, working on the car, no shirt, like walking up to me like a bouncer with his elbows out, trying to be tough. He's like, oh, you think that's funny? You think it's funny making fun of me because you ate my pasta sauce? And I'm like, I actually kind of do think it's funny. I'm like, did you not realize I got you more sauce? And he goes, no. I said, check the fridge, Ricky. I got you sauce. And then he opens it and like he freezes in place, like not understanding, like his brain was glitching because there was so much Alfredo in front of his eyes. And then he just slammed the fridge door shut and stormed out of the room. He goes, you're an asshole. And then I went to work and I changed our network ID to Ricky Likes Alfredo as a Wi-Fi network. And then I made the password Ricky Loves Alfredo. And then we spent the next 3 years having every client who wanted to get on the internet type that in.
God, it's still as fucking funny as the first time I heard it, y'all. Seriously, yo, Kavon, you would be an incredible Spaces host. Why are you not out here just tearing it up on the Spaces Live, baby?
I mean, I'm down to do Spaces. I don't know. I just, I enjoy talking and I like conversation with people. So it's like a really rational fit. And like whenever I'm making passive aggressive tweets talking about how fucking dumb Spaces are, it's typically because I'll jump into like a larger space. And it's just like, I don't understand how anyone can garner a giant audience and have such bad conversational skills. And I'm like, this whole thing is about being interactive and like interviewing people. And, I don't have to get into it too specifically because honestly, I don't remember. Like what they said was just like almost like it wasn't substantial enough to even remember. It was just droning on. And that drives me nuts.
Yes, it's low conversational skills and lack of actually anything of substance to say.
Yeah.
It's just like brain draining.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, I was reading some stuff, especially about now with like AI and all of that. and they're saying like content is about to be infinite, right? Like content generation is like button press at this point, right? So that doesn't mean that it's all good. Like some of it is going to be fantastic, a lot of it's going to be ass, but you're going to have this sort of like hit to miss ratio. And I'm just like, the internet's so cool, and there's so much good stuff on it, and there's so much incredible work on Twitter. And I'm like, how do you go out of your way to find nothing to say when there's like so much cool stuff to share?
All right, so we don't lose you. How can we protect you, support you, and keep you coming back to this space and keep you creating and keeping you happy? How can we help? Let us know.
So I'm trying to figure that out myself, right? So I've got the more I'm sort of like funded not by tattooing, the more time I have to make like 3D and stuff like that. So I'm always trying to like balance my tattoo gigs with like my freelance gigs with like Patreon and things like that. But I created Patreon like months ago, and I don't know how I feel about it, right? Because, and this ties into NFT stuff where I'm sort of doing a walled garden thing where I'm putting like behind the scenes work and stuff there. But I'm also like, I kind of want everyone to see that. I don't want it to necessarily be paywalled. So that's kind of its own tricky thing where I'm like, maybe I just got to get more into Manifold and start minting stuff, that kind of thing. So I can sort of self-fund at that point. But I don't know. It's a work in progress. But if you follow me on Instagram and you follow me on Twitter, I'm probably going to talk about it because I do a lot of that.
You're a great talker. You're a great conversationalist. And you're influential, by the way, because on the stream right now, Jay has changed her entire background. Or I don't think she changed it. I think Kavan changed it. And now she's infected with Alfredo sauce.
She got that
all over her background now. She got
that airborne Alfredo virus.
Yeah, the Alfredo airdrop has hit her hard. Kavan, is there anybody that you would really like to collaborate within the space?
Ooh, man, there's so many people because like they're so like, I like that. And here's the thing: me liking their work and me wanting to collaborate are almost two separate thoughts. Because there are people's work who I think is incredible, but I'm not sure how I would link in with that. Like that was it that Eclectic Method dude? Like his stuff is awesome. I mean, of course, there's like the Tristan Eatons and like Shepard Fairys and like those people, but like with people like, let's say Shepard Fairey, right? He's just super influential on me. And when I think about what would be a fun collab is somebody whose style is entirely different from mine. So I almost sort of like backtrack on that where I'm like, I don't know if I would want to collaborate with someone whose work I already am so into because my work kind of feels like it. You know what I mean? Like it would be cool to collaborate with someone who's almost the opposite of me. And I think the people who in tattooing that I want to collaborate with are people who do like not quite realism or maybe quasi-realism, because it's like I get to do stuff that's like flat and graphic and to have a point of contrast. To me, my favorite collabs are things that you wouldn't expect to go together. You know, I mean, it's cool to see people who are like a natural fit. But it's like a mashup, right? Like nobody wants a mashup of two songs that feel like they would go one after another in a playlist. You want a mashup of like Elton John and Pantera, right? You want stuff where you go, really? Those two? That's where I like it.
Oh, that's great. I've got another question. You at your shop recently, you guys had a really well-known tattoo artist that was there. And do you reach out to her? Are you like, hey, should we collab on something? Does that not work with tattoo? Like,
no, it does. Here's the problem. Me and a bunch of other tattooers, and we always want to collaborate, and especially with all these people who have these kind of unique styles. But also, the thing about tattooers is that it takes us forever to get tattooed ourselves, and it's like watching a designer never make their own business cards. I'm sure that people have seen that, right? Because if you hang out and you tattoo all day and then you're done with work, nobody says, hey, you want to tattoo for the next 5 hours? Like, it's just one of those things where tattooers not tattooing each other is like clockwork. It's so reliable. I've had friends in the industry complaining to me that they keep making appointments with our other friends who tattoo and everyone keeps bailing on one another because it's a weird trap. But we all have to sort of like push through and actually make it happen because there's some like phenomenal collabs I would love to do in tattooing.
I would love to follow you around one day if you're down, you know, because we're trying to do this video content. You're trying to get more content out there, and I think it would be cool. I'm just
You want to do some like Truman Show stuff, like buy a house filled with cameras.
whatever, man. Like I'll like get you coffee in the morning. I'll be like your apprentice, right? And I'll just hit the streets just to see what it's like. I love that. Like I really, you don't get that perspective when you watch like necessarily like all the YouTube videos, you know? All right, guys, you know I'm a good timekeeper, and I gotta say, Kavan, you've been just incredible. We're gonna throw you nothing but bouquets of roses, but I'll give you the second to the last word. If anybody else has anything else they want to say or add, please do so now. Raise your hand or just hit them hearts. But Kavan, please lead us out with the second to last word, and then I'll let everybody with the last word.
Wait, shit, what am I supposed to say? What words? I started looking at Spotify.
Whatever, something inspirational or like, you know, God, please don't hit the sound bar with the farts yet, baby. Don't do that to me.
I guess we're talking like generalized advice. The first thing I can come up with, I have some friends who are hesitant to try new things, whether it's mediums or whatever, because they don't like the feeling of not being good at something, and they're total perfectionists. And the perfectionist in them is what holds them back every time. And it drives me nuts. So I like the phrase, don't let perfect be the enemy of good, or don't let great be the enemy of good. There are a few versions of that. But I think about it all the time, like, just make something. In fact, it's easier if you just say, I'm going to make something terrible today. Because then you don't have to worry about it being good. Just make something that's awful. And then if it sucks, you go, mission accomplished. And if it's good, you're like, well, that was a surprise. You know what I mean? I tell people all the time, like, if they're getting some sort of like writer's block, then I'm like, just make a deal with yourself that you're going to draw something, and then when you're done, you're going to throw it away. So now it doesn't matter if it's good or bad, because you're just going to burn it anyways. I like that kind of mindset.
Incredible. Thank you, Kavan. I'm so happy we finally got you up here on our Rug Radio show. Thank you, everybody that tuned in. Thank you to our speakers that are up here. Give everybody a follow. Like, honestly, I can't even go into the details that every single PFP that I see up here that is doing. Like, we got video editors, we got video everything. I mean, the list goes on. I'm getting tongue-tied because I'm so fucking pumped when I see the room filled with these legends, and I don't ever throw the word legends around too often. So yes, these legends. Tune in next week, same day, same time, 6 p.m., where we'll have another incredible guest, and we don't know what surprises we'll have for you, but we always got them, and we'll check you out next week. We love you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for having me on.
Web3.